Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Haba. Today is the third day of Chodesh Av. It's also the third day of our campaign, and we're almost at 50%. So now's your chance. You could set up your team page, or you could be Mishtatef, charity.com/MMH25. We are up to Siman Kuf Lamed Hey, Sif Yud Beis. Ir Shekula Kohanim. If you have a city that is entirely of Kohanim, and by the way, there are more than one in the world of what are known as Ir Shekula Kohanim. You have a city in Morocco called Debdo. You have cities in Italy where historically they were Ir that were Mamish Rubai de Rubai Kohanim. So what do? Ir Shekula Kohanim, Im Yesh Yisrael Echad Beineim. If there is one Yisrael, Oitze Yisrael Kaira Rishon, then the Yisrael gets the first Aliyah. Mimnei Darkei Shalom. Otherwise, who you give the first Aliyah to? Who do you give the first Aliyah to? This Kayin says, I am a Kay Meyuchas from the Shach. This one says, I'm a Kay Meyuchas from Aaron HaKayin. Who are you going to give the first Aliyah to? You give it to Yisrael. Let's say you don't have enough Yisraels to go around. Then, let's say you don't have a Yisrael at all. You call up one kain after another. She'ein sham misham pagam. It's not a pagam that you're calling up a kain after a kain. Sha'kol yodim she'ein sham ela kohanim. Everybody knows there are only kohanim there. V'adin li'er shekula leviim. The same thing would be a city of all leviim. Now, I don't know what city that is. Let's see. I actually was last Shabbos. I was in the IRG shul. 1 second. In the Yeki community in Switzerland, in Zurich, it's not mamish Ir Shekula Kohanim, but they have so many Kohanim that Yomim Noiram, they have over 50 Kohanim that go up to the Duchen. Can you imagine? They have over 50 Kohanim that are Oila L'Duchen, because the community was built by the Rashi Kahal are Kohanim, and now it's a few generations later. So I don't know about Ir Shekula Leviim. Okay, so let's see the Mishna Berura Sivkata Mem Gimel. Shekula Kohanim. V'hainu dafka k'she'ein sham gam kein Levi klal. It's also talking about if you don't have a Levi at all. She'ein yichoylin l'skayim kaseder shetiknu chazal. It's also talking about where you don't have a Levi at all. So you can't follow the regimen of Chazal, Kohen Levi Yisrael. Therefore, Mibnei HaShalom, you gotta jump through hoops and you flip the order. First Yisrael, then Kohen. If you have one Levi, so then you're not going to call up the Yisrael first. This din that you call up the Yisrael first is only if they're all Kohanim and no Yisrael. I'm sorry, they're all Kohanim and no Levi, only Yisrael. But if you have a Levi, then you're going to maintain the order of Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. This aberration is only when there is no Levi there. Right? Avam yesham oid Levi achad yikru kaseder hamishna Kohen Levi Yisrael v'achar kach es hasha'ar yikru Kohanim. And afterwards, you should call up the Kohanim. Yisrael echad beineim, aval im yesh shnei Yisraelim. Ooh, what if there are two Yisraelim? Now what? You're going to say, you can give this Yisrael, which Yisrael? It could get feisty. Because this Yisrael, his whole life, he wanted the first Aliyah. He was never able to get the first Aliyah. It's Ir Shekulei Kohanim. He always dreamt of the day he would come to shul and Kohen, and he would get the first Aliyah. But it never happened, because the whole city is full of Kohanim. And now, finally, it's his day to shine. It's Ir Shekol Kohanim, he's the only Yisrael. And just then a guest comes in, and they say, you're Kohen? No. You're Levi? No. It's his biggest nightmare. He was waiting his whole life to get the verse. Now there are 2 Yisraelim. What did the Mechaber mean? What that meant is, the Yisrael is not going to cover the job. Why? Because there are 2 of them. Therefore you should call up the Kohen first. V'gam yikra HaKohen b'makam Levi. Then call up the Kohen b'makam Levi. V'achar kach yikru HaYisraelim. So, and then for the rest of the aliyos, let's say it's Shabbos, you should call up Yisraelim. V'yas aliyos yashlimu b'kayhanim. So you do Kohen, Yisrael, and then the remaining ones Kohanim. V'im yesh shnei Leviyim u'shnei Yisraelim. Kohen, Levi, v'Yisrael. And then v'achar kach oid, Kohen, Levi, v'Yisrael. So if you have, let's say, a minimum amount of Yisraelim and Leviim, then you'll do Kohen Levi Yisrael, Kohen Levi Yisrael. You could even give a Kohen the Shvi, and then the rest of the Aliyos you could give Kohen Levi Yisrael. The rest of the Aliyos you could give Kohanim. What's the reason you could give the Yisrael the first Aliyah? Mivnei Darkei Shalom. Shaloyomer Kol Echad Lamata Kar Rishon Yosir Meni. The reason you call the Yisrael first is because the reason why you call the Kohen the Yisrael first is because we don't want the Kohanim to fight. Why are you calling him? Why are you calling him first? Which is interesting because in most shuls, even though you have a Kohen Levi Yisrael, there are more than one Kohanim. So how do you navigate that? Which Kohen do you call? I guess you don't have a choice there. You're going to have to call somebody first, so you call the Kohen first. But when everyone's a Kohen, and there's one Yisrael, I don't fully understand what's the Darkei Shalom, so that we don't have every Kohen say, I want to be called first. What do you do in a regular place where you have Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim? The Kohanim are also going to say, why'd you give it to him? Why'd you give it to him? Why'd you give it to him? So I guess in that case we have no choice. Chazal gave a regiment. They gave an order of Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. So you got to give the Kohen first. But in this case you're not doing Kohen, Levi, Yisrael, because there are no Leviim. And there's only one Yisrael. I guess in a regular case, let's say, so you say, what do you ever do when there's no Levi? You have to choose a Kohen. So you have to choose a Kohen. Why aren't we afraid they're going to get into a fist fight? I guess the answer is because what's the alternative? You're going to give it to a Yisrael? Which Yisrael? They're going to get into a fist fight. So you might as well keep the order. But in this case where you have multiple Kohanim and you have one Yisrael, you have an easier way to navigate the politics. You see, this is only in this circumstance where you have multiple Kohanim and one Yisrael, so the way to navigate the situation is give it to the one Yisrael. In a regular case, you have no choice. Who are you going to give it? You have to choose a Kohen. So you say, no, choose a Yisrael. Well, which Yisrael? They're also going to fight. So you might as well do the right thing, you know? I always say, if it's going to involve politics, you might as well do the right thing. You have nothing to lose. Yeah, but in the case we have multiple Kohanim and one Yisrael, then you do have an alternative. You could give it to the one Yisrael. I guess that's the pshat. Let's say you only have one Levi in a city that's all Kohanim. Then oisei Levi karishin mehai taima. Im ein sham ela Kohanim leviim. Let's say you only have Kohanim leviim. Yikra Kohen achar Kohen. You could call a Kohen after a Kohen. Behefsek Levi bein tayim. So you call Kohen, Levi, Kohen, Levi. Kohen shu avel ve'en Kohen achar beis haknesses. Let's say a Kohen who's an avel, and there's no other Kohen in the shul. Now normally you don't call up an avel to an aliyah. An avel is not again aliyah. B'Shabbos mutar l'kar l'Kohen. Why? Because it's going to look like public avelos. What about during the week? During the week he can't go up because an avel is not allowed to learn. Nevertheless, during the week, whether it's the week or Shabbos, right? On Shabbos the avel is mutter b'divrei Torah. So, if there's no other kind, you could call him up. But it's better for him to leave the shul v'yikru Yisrael ulevi b'makayim kain. What if somebody always gets shlishi, and now they're an avel? The Shulchan Aruch says in Yoredeya, this was what happened to Rabbeinu Tam. The Chazan did not call him up; he went up for himself. And Rabbeinu Tam said that since he gets shlishi every Shabbos, if somebody sees that he doesn't go up, then it's avelos b'farhesia. So the Chazan didn't want to call up Rabbeinu Tam, but Rabbeinu Tam took the aliyah himself. And I guarantee you, nobody started up with Rabbeinu Tam when he went up for that aliyah. However, Shal Shechuvas Marshal says, even on Shabbos, you should not go up, and that's the minhag. What about an avel who's a Baal Bris? An avel who's a Baal Bris. I just went to a Shiva house where the mother passed away in labor. A young father, the mother passed away in labor. And it was a baby boy. So the father has to make a bris, nebach lo yaleinu, without a mother for the baby. But then, by then, it's the 8th day, so the father is not be'avelos anymore, right? So then the father could definitely get an aliyah. So, a different case. The case is somebody's an avel as a Baal Bris. Shal Shechus Marshal in the Taz, and the Nachla Shiva says he does not get an aliyah. What about on Shabbos? The Pri Chadash says he must take an aliyah, because since the minhag is you make a misha beirach for the avi ben, if he doesn't go up, it's avelos b'farhesia. What about a chasan who's an avel? Stei Chemet says he gets an aliyah. What about Tisha B'Av and Shachris? Tisha B'Av, Shachris, could an avel get an aliyah? I was thinking about that. I was thinking, of course why not? How could anybody get an aliyah on Tisha B'Av? The answer is the Kriyas HaTorah on Tisha B'Av has to be mutter for those who are, everyone's asr b'devei Torah on Tisha B'Av. Elamai, this Kriya is not midin Talmud Torah because it's appropriate for the day. So he brings over here from the Shari Tshuva, an avel could get an aliyah on Tisha B'Av and could be mafter because everyone's asr b'Talmud Torah. Reb Chaim Falaji says only if the avel needs the aliyah. When we say that somebody should leave the shul, let's say because they're an avel, when should they leave? The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says before they take out the Sefer Torah. However, the Shari Ephraim says before the Kriya. Okay, we'll hold over here. Shkayach.
What about an avel on Simchas Torah?
How can you take an aliyah?
Granted, I had that problem twice, and I was told I shouldn't get an aliyah. But if the Gabbai calls you up or starts asking you about an aliyah, it's available to Farhesia.
I mean, because since everybody gets an aliyah, it's avelos b'farhesia?
No, when he started calling me up, I'm telling you, no. Once he starts calling me up, then if I don't go...
Well, even, why? Because calling him up, what's the issue on someone's Torah? It's avelos b'farhesia?
Could be.
Why? Since everyone gets an aliyah?
I don't think so, because not everyone would be aware of that. But once he started calling me up, and I said, I'm not...
Is there a problem of avelos b'farhesia on Yom Tov Sheni?